Let's talk about the New York Knickerbockers. Changes in coaching. What does that mean for the fantasy value of these players? Let's try and figure it out, Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and it was me that killed the center bounce. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to fanduel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, I'm going to guess by the time you are watching this that the latest head-to-head category league is full. Leave a comment if you want more categories. Leave a comment if you want a points league. Because I need to see enough interest in points leagues to open another one. So leave comments on those. Also, worth noting that the FBI Basketball World Cup is up now as well. The link to register to that is in the description, so you can check that out. The FBI World Cup's been around for a long time. There's almost 600 teams in that, 12-team leagues with multiple phases with redrafts during the middle of the season and battling down for one total prize pool. So, FBI World Cup, link in the description. Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, link in description as well. We are here today to talk about the New York Knickerbockers. No more Tom Thibodeau, which there was a certain comfort, I guess, in having Tibbs coaching the Knicks. I knew what I'd be able to criticize him on. Obvious of all time. Lack of flexibility, a stubbornness to try anything new, and then him realizing that in the playoffs and not being able to change it in time. It's a tale as old as time. Simple stuff. Playing guys who are injured in 40-point games as they limp around. Right? Can't do that anymore. Need a new story. Mike Brown is in. And we'll talk about him in a second and what we can maybe expect from the Knicks. Let's have a look at my predicted or projected rotation. I'm not certain on this. I'm not convinced on this, but I do think that we will get a bit of this. Well, we know Jalen Brunson's going to start. We know Mikal Bridges is going to start. We know OG Anunoby is going to start. We know Karl-Anthony Towns is going to start. I do think that it will be Mitchell Robinson in that other position. Last season, every game, it was Josh Hart until we got to the very end of the playoffs and Tibbs went, oh, this isn't working. That starting lineup played like 500 more minutes than any five-man group in the entire NBA last season because he just refused to try anything else. He would play exorbitant minutes to his players. And I'm not saying that it wore them down necessarily. It might have, but that's not what I'm even saying. It's like you don't try anything else. You've got no other club to go to. I don't know exactly what Mike Brown will do. He could also go with a different option, with probably not a Jordan Clarkson, but there's some small whispers of a Juice McBride into that starting group. Whatever it is going to be a little bit different in terms of how things are run versus last season. Now, there are a couple of coaches who are heavy minutes guys. Tibbs is one. Nick Nurse is one. Ime Udoka is one. And Mike Brown is one. So, while we aren't getting the Tibbs inflexibility and the very narrow rotations, and some of the narrow rotations aren't all on Tibbs because we talked about this when the Towns trade happened last season. This team is so shallow. There is nobody good in the last the last 8 guys on this roster. They're all bad. Right, so that's not on Tibbs necessarily. That's on the front office. But also the front office was catering to how Tibbs plays, I'm guessing. They're a lot deeper this season. So I think we can expect some changes. So their bench is actually like, there's a guy that's arguing with me about the Timberwolves because I did a preview about them yesterday saying, hey, these guys are not deep at all. They've got 7 really good players and they're not much. Right? This Knicks team is deeper than the Timberwolves team. Their bench could be Josh Hart, Jordan Clarkson, Malcolm Brogdon, Juice McBride, and Gershon Yabusele. That's not a bad group. It's definitely deeper than they were last season. And I think someone like Ariel Hukporti is going to be an NBA rotation player. Landry Shamet, for some reason, is back. Now, they've still got a bunch of crap at the end of their roster, like Kevin McCullough and Paco Daddier. Well, not Daddier, first-round pick, but played about 4 minutes last season. Tyler Kolek, who I don't think is an NBA player. But that is a legit 10-man grouping now, which they didn't have access to last season. So there is a slight difference there. So while Mike Brown can be heavy on minutes, he doesn't have to be as heavy. And that's where we come in. What are the changes that we think that Mike Brown is going to bring in? Because that is one of the questions on this projection. Whether he starts Mitchell Robinson or not, or it's Josh Hart, I feel pretty good about looking at this. And this is not a unique take. I think I probably had an early take on this, but it's not unique to say that Josh Hart is not going to repeat what he did last season. I feel pretty good about saying that. Because Josh Hart was awesome last season. And I was... remember in the preseason, Josh Hart shot about 2%? And we're like, Jesus, what is going on here? And then, of course, that corrected, and he was someone that I was a little bit down on, but then the ADP pushed way back because of the preseason. I said, okay, let's get him late. But I didn't expect he was as good as he was. Now, of course, if you look at Yahoo's straight 9-cat totals rankings, it'll say that he was a first-round player, which, again, is insane. He was not. He was around 50th to me, points, leagues, and categories, which sounds about right. But he had to play 38 minutes a game to get there on just 15 usage. He remains one of the best rebounders for his size, or just one of the best rebounders in the NBA. He upticked his assist numbers huge, 6 assists a game. He shot the ball really well, considering it had been bad the year before. 53 from the field. Not that good on threes, and he doesn't take many of them. But steals, rebounds, assists with good field goals and solid free throws was a pretty good run from Josh the Hitman Hart last season. But are we actually thinking that he is going to... Look, not only does he have to maintain the level of shooting which he hadn't in the past and be a high assists player with those excellent free throws, but he's just not going to play 38 minutes. It makes no sense that he would play 38. We all love Josh Hart as a player, but that is a crazy number. Josh Hart, for example, ranked 49 for ESPN categories, by the way, which is crazy. 44 on Yahoo, crazy. 40 for ESPN points, crazy. That is one of the easiest avoids to me of all time. It is just so simple. I think there's just no way that I'm looking at Josh Hart there. Like, if I'm looking at Josh Hart in the 90s for points leagues or 80s, go for it. If I'm looking at Josh Hart in the 70s or 80s for category leagues, probably 80s, go for it. For 40s, you're dreaming. It's a league-losing scenario, I think. And then the question is, like, how much does Mitch Robinson play? Because he's really limited. He's a rebounds guy. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA. If you have offensive rebounds as a category, you love that. Blocks, which have come down as he tries to stay on the court more. Field goal percentage, just what he does. I think his usage will be higher than what it's been in Tibbs' years, where Tibbs keeps you at like 4% usage if you're a center with no skill whatsoever. And that just won't be a thing on this team. With Mike Brown, he will not be that low in usage. But still, he's going to be one of those real specialist type of late round picks. And category leagues, not points leagues for Robinson. He's just not that good in points leagues at all in comparison. And he's going to have to deal with bad free throws. But I think he's going to do more than he did last season. One of the other questions is, what do they do with the bench guards? Because their bench, if you look at their best 10 players, it's Malcolm Brogdon on the bench, it's Jordan Clarkson on the bench, it's Deuce McBride on the bench, which you could argue they all play the same position. Now, Brogdon can play the 1 and the 2, Clarkson can play the 1 and the 2, McBride can play the 1 and the 2. Bridges can slide to the 3, and we can have Brunson playing with these guys, and they can all mix and match. But one of those guys is going to get favored, and I do think it is going to be Jordan Clarkson. I think he is the best of that group. Brogdon just might honestly just be washed. That's possible. Like, he has barely played the last 2 years. Some of that is tanking, some of that is his body, some of it is his players also fallen way off. Jordan Clarkson was very much not at his best, and he could also be close to washed. He hit 41% from the field. 4 assists a game is not great, but in 26 minutes it's okay. 28 usage probably won't hold at that number. But he's a guy that knows how to fit in on good teams. 16 points a game, good free throws. I think he's going to be one of those really useful, streamable type of players in both points and category leagues. It was not good for him last season, but the environment was not good as well. But I'd say he's the favourite there over Brogdon and probably over McBride also. So what could change with Jalen Brunson? We'll talk more about Brunson later, but Brunson's game was incredibly slow. Mike Brown had some success in Sacramento, playing up-tempo in his first season, and then for whatever reason, every year after that, slowed it down and they got worse. Again, why? Brunson, I don't think, can play that fast, but they've been talk that they've been trying to get him into situations to play more like Steph. Again, not going to happen. Like, he's not Steph. But getting him off ball more. So what does that do for his overall production? Does usage drop? Assist rate drop as he plays more off ball? I don't know. Will we see Towns get used more like a Sabonis type character? That's a possibility as well. And the other thing they do is, do they just rely more on that bench? Do we see 1 minute tick off of Towns? Not that he played that much because he was injured a lot of the season. Do we see Anunoby, Bridges, Hart, Brunson lose 2-3 minutes? Like, I think Hart could lose 5 or 6. Which you need to then adjust your baseline ideas on where this team sits for this upcoming season with a new coach in there. So I think all of those things are key factors. We'll come back and talk about under and overvalued players today's episode. It is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you will get $300 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. That's right, you pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets that you can use right across the app. Player props. You can use it on live lines during games. You can use it on same-game parlays, live same-game parlays. You can do multi-sport future parlays. World Series winner, Super Bowl winner, NBA championship winner. You can use all of those. You can just do straight up who's going to win. The most basic of bets. But it's all there on FanDuel. Put your knowledge to the test. Get some fun in as well. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com. You can download the FanDuel app there now and get started. And of course, don't forget to gamble responsibly. Talking about the New York Knicks here in their upcoming season under Mike Brown instead of having Tom Thibodeau in charge. Let's take a look at some undervalued guys, I think, and there's just not many of them. Although, I think that the Jedi, OG Anunoby, is being a little bit undervalued. At the end of last season, when we saw Brunson out, Towns had some issues with his knee. Anunoby did the thing that I love to see. He just said, right, I'm ramping the usage up. And he did. And it was spectacularly good. Now, when others came back and in the playoffs, we saw him sort of pull back down. But at the moment, like, he sits at 76 OG on Yahoo. He's at 69 on ESPN. For some reason, again, no idea why this is, he's got an ADP of 112 on ESPN OG Anunoby. For a points league, he's around the 70s. I get it. But why shouldn't we be looking at him as, like, he was 64th in categories last season. Why can't he be at least that, if not higher? He was 75th in points leagues, and again, that's not as exciting for us for where he's currently positioned. But, like, why can't OG improve? Like, he had 18 and 5 with 2 assists. He played 37 minutes. That probably does come down. But what if some of that usage spike we saw holds? And with some of the ball coming out of Brunson's hands, we get a little bit more of initiator Anunoby. There's no guarantee of that. He might get Keegan Murray'd, which Mike Brown has a track record of doing. Maybe we get more Mikal Bridges running pick and rolls, and it's not OG. But last season it was OG who stepped into that role and was averaging 20 a game for a period of time. His free throws were great. His field goals were good. His three-pointers were good. His defensive stats were awesome. I think that there is value in OG Anunoby at the moment, where he's positioned for ESPN leagues, for category leagues, and for points leagues. For Yahoo categories and for ESPN categories. On the flip side for the Knicks, I think there's a lot of guys currently being overvalued. And I'm going to start with Karl-Anthony Towns. Towns currently is ranked 11th on Yahoo. He has an ESPN points rank of 12th. He's got an ADP and ESPN of 13. Towns was very good last season. Absolutely no denying that. And that was one of the wins that I had last season. Is that as soon as he was traded, right, this is a first-round draft pick player. Because is moving from power forward to center, and that impacts things a lot. But now he might be moving back to power forward. Or at the very least, instead of playing 35 minutes at center, he's playing 26 minutes at center and 8 minutes at power forward, next to Mitchell Robinson. So I don't think that Towns in a lot of spots is worth where he's being selected. It is probably the most egregious to me for ESPN points leagues, because Towns has an ESPN points rank of 12. 12. That's a pretty lofty number. Last season for ESPN points leagues, he was 11th. All right, and you could say there was a couple of guys ahead of him that are out. Not really. Those guys are actually behind him in ESPN points leagues last season. So that just means you're expecting him to do 24 and 13 again and be as good as he was. Now, there is a world in where Towns ups those 3.1 assists to 5, right? Because of the Mike Brown factor. That is absolutely a possibility. But I think that rebounds will drop. I think some efficiency will drop. I think there's a chance that scoring drops a little bit as well. And I just don't want to do that in round 1. To me, he's a middle of the round 2, that sounds wrong. The middle of round 2 sort of a player. And in points leagues, I can see him being back end round 2. Even more so in Yahoo as well, which there are risks of in terms of where you're drafting him. I think Jalen Brunson's also being just incredibly overrated from a fantasy point of view. I don't really get it. So I will post things like my mock drafts, or I'll put up top 25 rankings, which again, there's got to be grains of salt in all that stuff that I post because of different formats and trying to make it mix and all that sort of stuff. People go, how can you not have Brunson? Pretty easily, actually. Brunson, for me, is currently overvalued for Yahoo and Fantrax in category leagues. Brunson sits with a rank of 22 and an ADP of 23 on Yahoo and a Fantrax ADP of 23. His ESPN rank of 27 on category leagues is okay, it's not bad. His points rank at 22 is not great. In ESPN points league, his value is pretty strong, but I don't look at Brunson as a great fantasy option that's worth the second round pick. Especially if he just does less this season. He had 29 usage last season. That could come down. What if they take an assist out of his hands and give it to Towns? Because he's not a super high assist guy. He's a bad steals guy. He never gets blocks. He's a terrible rebounder. His free throws are really strong, but he doesn't attempt that many threes. He's one of the guys that you think should be better than he actually is in category leagues, but he's just not. He's just not that good in a category league that you would expect him to be. To me, he's just significantly overrated if you're going inside the top 20 or even inside the top 30 for Jalen Brunson. There's so many things that he doesn't do well enough. And last season for ESPN points, he was ranked 22nd, which is obviously pretty good. But do we expect that he does? He averaged 26 and 7 last season. Do we think that that's realistically what he's going to do again? I don't have supreme confidence in that. I think there's going to be somewhat of a dip, a minute off of playing time, a percentage point of usage down, maybe half an assist as well. I don't like it. Obviously, we've talked Josh Hart. There's just no way you're looking at him in those areas. It's just a silly sort of a pick to be looking at him at 49, 44 on Yahoo, even 61 on Fantrax. That's just, it doesn't make sense to me. To me, he's an 80s or 90s player, even later if you wanted. And I also think there's some overrating going on for Mikal Bridges, who sits at 58 on ESPN for category leagues. He's at 53 for ESPN points leagues, and that's just, to me, a way off what Bridges is able to provide. Bridges is, again, one of those guys where people are going to be like, well, he just plays every game. And I am a stickler for this, right? I think what you can easily say about Mikal Bridges is he has played every game. That is true. He has never missed a game. Obviously, there's some shenanigans about him playing literally 1 second in the final game of last season to keep that streak alive, right? You can say that, oh yeah, but who cares? It's what happened. Okay. The reason he didn't play that game was to try and protect himself and get some rest in, which is just something you can do during the season as well. We don't actually care about this streak that much, my guy. But he is not Superman. At some point, there will be an injury. It will happen. And if your entire argument for taking someone in some spot is because in the past he hasn't gotten hurt, it is an argument that is bound to fail. I do think that on a per game basis, we can actually see a better Mikal Bridges than what we saw last season because he was not very good. And I was very, very much fading him last season because he was positioned too highly and he took a gigantic step backwards. Usage dropped 5 percentage points. His defensive stats never recovered. His efficiency was better, but I think there's a little bit more that we can improve upon from last season for Mikal Bridges, but it's also just not that exciting of a pick. Like at 58 and 63 ESPN rank and ADP, like what am I doing there? No way. Like 80s, 90s for points league? Sure. Category league in the 80s? Go for it. You want to bump him a little bit because of perceived durability? And again, it is true. He doesn't have an injury history. This does help. It doesn't prevent an injury. It doesn't do anything like that. And it's not even that he's tougher than everyone. He plays through things. No, he just hasn't gotten hurt, which again is great. It's great that he hasn't gotten hurt. And I hope that he doesn't get hurt. Odds would suggest that he will at some point. And my overall point on so many of these things, if your only argument for taking somebody in a certain spot is he does not get hurt, reassess that argument. Because as I do the study every single year, the least predictable part of a player's stat line and production is their games played. And you can say, well, for Bridges it is. Yeah, until it isn't, Jason Tatum. Until it isn't. How many of these guys, Westbrook, Lillard, never get hurt, play every game? Oh, yeah. Tatum, the durability's there. Look, I don't want it to happen to Ant, but, sometimes these things just, they happen. So it's not to discount it, just don't make it your entire personality. Today's episode is also brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future into some big, round, peachy... No. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Peloton IQ is a system that delivers real-time strength coaching. It watches you do your reps. It goes, hey, keep that form better. Bad accent, but Peloton's much better. It tells you what to do with the weights. It tells you how to track your reps, make sure you're using the right weights, correcting the form, making every rep safer and smarter. And the swivel screen is a game changer. It can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Okay, so we're talking Knicks. Let's take a look at some star players, the guys that have that top 50 upside and top 50 potential to finish the season. And even though I've said, hey, I think Towns is being a little bit overrated and Brunson's being a little bit overrated, they've still got that top 50 potential. I don't want to take Towns at 9. I don't want to take Brunson at 20. If I can get Brunson at 35, at 40, I'm okay, that's good. If I can get Towns at 16 or 17, I'm good with it. If I get him at 14, I'm better with it. It's about where do I see these guys positioning. The other one who, again, I've talked about as the undervalued guy is Anunoby. He might not work out. He might not get a usage bump. In fact, Brown might, again, Keegan Murray him and put him into a smaller hole. And that limits what he can do. But I do think there is some top 50 upside. Like, I don't think that it's there for Hart. I don't think it's there for Robinson. I don't think it's there for Bridges. But I do think it's there for OG. And that is something we pay attention to. Who are the new arrivals? Gershon Yabusele, huge upgrade over Precious Achiuwa. Now, Yabusele was someone who had some strong moments at times last season, but also was overrated. Even in situations when Embiid was out and he was playing 30 minutes a night, he was a borderline 12-team league player. And it is going to require multiple things to happen here to get to 30 minutes. He is a solid fill-in, backing up at the 4, playing next to Towns, playing next to Robinson. He will probably limit anything that Huck Porty would be able to do. And if you're in a deeper league, you like what Gershon can do. He was really strong. But overall, his statistical profile wasn't really suited to fantasy leagues. Jordan Clarkson comes in. We've spoken about him. Malcolm Brogdon, you just should have no trust in Brogdon. But at least if we are in a situation where Brunson is hurt, having Brogdon or Clarkson step into larger roles is useful. They also bring in Tosan Ebwamwan, who's had some moments for Detroit and Brooklyn the last 2 years in silly season, putting up out-of-position assists and rebounds, but this team's not a silly season team, so it doesn't really matter. And Trey Jemison comes across as well, who's had some moments for New Orleans and Memphis, was with the Lakers at times last season. He's a two-way contract big man. Not someone we need to worry about too much here. I don't really see anyone on this team as being a breakout type player. Like, who's the guy that's in a position to really step forward? I don't think that really exists on this team. And in terms of injuries, the only guy to really be paying attention to at this point is Malcolm Brogdon, who missed the last, 3 months of last season with, I actually don't even know what it was. Towns' knee is a concern, and there were times last season he was grimacing, he was limping around, and Tibbs would continue to play him. Brunson also had the bad ankle sprain at the end of last season, but obviously he came back for the playoffs. But overall, they're healthy at the moment, and we hope that they stay that way. In terms of the schedule, like the team we did earlier today, there is a 2-game playoff week involved in this. It's a different time to the Pelicans, but it is the same week that the Denver Nuggets have a 2-game week, which is the final week for default Yahoo playoff schedules, the week of March 30th. So another reason, if you are deciding to take Karl-Anthony Towns at pick 8 or 9, which I would not recommend, and you are in a Yahoo default league, he has 2 games in that week. So not only do I not think he's worth it on a per-game basis, the 2-game week wipes that out. So do not do that. Yeah, less impact on a Brunson or a Bridges or an Anunoby or Hart or whatever. The 2-game week is not as important. But another reason, don't go into round 2 to get Brunson if you're playing Yahoo default, because you get a 2-game playoff week in championship week. And not only do I think you can find way better options at that spot, just irrespective of the 2-game week, then you got to factor that in. So that's 2 giant red crosses against Towns and Brunson if you're playing that default playoff schedule on either ESPN or Yahoo, because it's involved in their default playoffs. I don't think they hit that per game. Plus, there's a 2-game week for their teams in there as well, which is a bad sign for someone you might spend a first or second round pick on. Not good. They've got 14 back-to-backs as well, which does not really matter that much. And that's the New York Knicks. A team with a lot of change, but the personnel hasn't changed that much. So when we're talking about drafting these guys, like Towns in round 2, fine, watch the playoffs. Anunoby, you can get him in the 60s. I love that. Brunson is going too high, but if you see him fall to the end of round 3, I think that makes more sense. Josh Hart, just craziness where he's currently going. I think in a lot of real drafts, you'll see him in the 80s or 90s, which I'm okay with. Mitchell Robinson in the last round, go for it. Last couple of rounds, whatever. Flyer time. And Bridges in the 80s is fine. Just don't make the health the crux of your argument that you argue to yourself. Clarkson's going to be a stream guy. Gershon's going to be a stream guy, but more deeper leagues. Brogdon and McBride will have opportunities. And then the Huck, Porty, Shamet, Kolek, Dadier, Diawara grouping, probably not going to matter that much, I'm guessing, for most of you. But, maybe that's presumptuous of me. Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, link in description, QR on the screen, linktree/LOFB Bowl. Join up, see what's available. Just check that link and you never know what's going to drop on there. And when those auctions drop, I think they're going to fill up really quickly. So you just might need to check on them. And let me know if you do want a new points league or a new category league, because I think that's going to be full pretty quickly. Also check out the FBI Fantasy World Cup, where the registration form is in the description, audio and video. If you're on YouTube, here, scroll across on the comments, hype the video, thumb it up, leave your comments down below, guys. We are done here. Check out the late round flyers video earlier. 60 names for picks in the last rounds. Guys, we are done. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.